If you guys want to come up on stage with us, just call in and I'll just bring you up on stage so you can share with us and chit chat. Don't be shy.
Yeah, so expected splashdown is at 7:06 p.m. Eastern time, so that's like in an hour and 16 minutes-ish.
And we'll see, of course, probably a part of the orbit. They'll talk a little bit before. Then, of course, there's like total radio silence when they're in the big fireball. And then they reappear. We see the chutes. And I think it should be light enough outside on the coast of Florida so we can see probably the whole splashdown. And then there's probably just, as we've seen with other astronauts, like the small speedboats, like go to get them, secure them, then they bring them to the big boat, and then they do some final checks that there's no leaks, no nothing, and then they open the hatch and we see everybody pop out. Hey, Omar, how are you doing?
Doing good. Just been playing with FSD Beta 10.0.1.
And?
I mean, drove for about 30 minutes through San Francisco, which is like, all kinds of crazy stuff, situations, people, and, there was zero disengagement. So, we didn't do every single thing perfect, but I think with 10.1, after a week, yeah, it's probably ready to get to some more people.
Yeah, so we in the room, a lot of people were saying that 10 felt more like 9.3, and I think they were having issues at last minute, and they released something that wasn't maybe the real 10. And I think what you were supposed to get on Friday was what you got now, like 2 days ago, I think. And I think 10.1, yeah, for the button, I think it's going to be pretty amazing. Can't wait to see those videos. Haven't had much time. Have you guys seen the videos yet of 10.01?
Hello, guys. I actually haven't even seen anything.
As I was saying, this is popcorn style. So if you guys want to jump in stage, just call in and I'll bring you up.
Yeah, you cut out for a second there, Alex. But, I think with FSD Beta 10, they made it a lot more aggressive. Like, it's very interesting, and the problem with FSD Beta has always been that, people were always honking at you because the thing was so slow, right? It had to be obviously cautious, especially when the system isn't, as, good in what it's seeing. It needs to be, cautious and leave some room for error. So, people would honk at it. And this one can, it's really starting to pull off some aggressive moves. Like, at four-way stops, it really kind of keeps going and inching in to the intersection to try and get its place. I even saw somebody else was going, but it started moving a little bit and then stopped. So it's a lot more aggressive about getting through and doing things without an accelerator. And I think some of that probably caught people off guard a little bit. But a lot of times it'll go and you think it's going, but then it'll actually stop, and it's just kind of trying to be weirdly assertive in a way that actually kind of gets you through the intersection quicker.
But if I may ask, Omar, one thing is the experience of the driver, but do you think this version would change the perception of the other cars surrounding this vehicle? Does it pass the passive Turing test in some way?
Well, I don't think that other people, or even a passenger who wasn't told, would necessarily even know that the car was driving itself. But on the other hand, somebody still honked at me today when I was, at a four-way intersection, and the car was being really aggressive and inching its way through, but then someone started crossing the crosswalk, so then it stopped. So then, the guy was honking at me, he was trying to go the other direction. So it's not 100%, perfect. It still needs some human help sometimes, but people are honking at it a lot less. It's being a lot more assertive and human-like in that regard, and not holding up traffic as much.
That's actually fun to hear. The question is, when will it start to honk?
Exactly.
Hey, if you want to do a room afterwards, like a chill room where we bring people up on stage, this is something I want to try. Like long-winded rooms, bring everybody up like we do on Clubhouse and just chat like later on tonight after the splashdown. I'd be up for that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, we also get the live feed any moment. I think we are.
It actually just went live.
It's not
They're
longer.
playing music.
It did,
Nobody
doesn't it?
is
Yes.
talking
Yeah,
yet, but
yeah.
yeah, it's live.
Oh, are we taking bets on who's going to be the first one?
The commander, maybe? I don't know.
He ought to be the last one leaving the ship.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe Haley. She's the youngest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where are they splashing down?
Off the coast of Florida.
Ocean.
Atlantic Ocean, just off the coast of Florida.
The Gulf is just a backup location, right, for the splashdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they find them quickly. You know, it's kind of like at sunset, so don't really want to be stuck in the ocean for too long. And I hope they land in the right orientation and not like upside down or something.
It would be cool if they just dropped them in the pool at Gordon Johnson's back party.
Yeah. No, I think there's very little chance that it's like it's bottom heavy and with the chutes like dragging it like from the tip. Night recovery is always more complicated, but they will be exiting the capsule. It will be dark, that's for sure, because there's so many checks. I don't know if you guys remember, but they have to check for the propellant, like the hypergolic propellants, that there's no leak, before they open the door, because they're the safest as long as they're in the Dragon. Like as soon as they open the door, like the risk goes up. So they have to just make sure that, everything is perfect before they open the.
But I guess they'll, fish boat them back onto the ship, and we ought to see them with the good lighting, right? Wasn't it dark last time around?
Oh, there's good lighting on the ship, but it will be dark. Like I think the splashdown is going to be still light outside. It's going to be sunset. But there's lots of procedures with those little speedboats that go up first, and then I don't know exactly what they do, but they make sure everything's okay, and then they drag it to the big boat, and the big boat has that crane type winch thing, and then they bring it on board. Then there's a whole bunch of checks, and then they open the thing, and they make sure everybody's okay inside, and then they come out one by one. But they haven't been there that long.
So yeah, like sunset at the Cape today is at 7:23 p.m.
Yeah, so if they're on schedule, we'll have a bit of light. And yeah, by the time they exit, it'll be dark. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I really want to know if Biden is going to say something. Seriously, this is so embarrassing.
I
doubt it.
I was thinking because, I wonder if he's just waiting until they return safely. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I wonder if he's just he doesn't want to sort of congratulate a private, funded thing, even though it's this whole St. Jude thing. I wonder if he's just waiting to for it to successfully splash down. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be because maybe he doesn't want to congratulate them and then something goes wrong.
Yeah, how does that look if it
he was endorsing it?
Yeah,
but there's
would love to mock him for that on TV.
Yeah, but still, it's if you don't congratulate the accomplishment of being in space, and then let's say something would happen, which I think is highly unlikely, but then you're the only one that didn't congratulate the team when they were alive and getting a message from the president. It's it's also a faux pas.
Did he congratulate Jeff Bezos? And
I don't know. I haven't seen that. I don't know if anybody.
Well, they didn't even go to space.
No, exactly. Well, Bezos would if he was here, I'm sure he would call in to say something about that. But
he would just
his lawyer would call in.
I thought it was nice to see him congratulating Elon. I thought that was cool. And Richard Branson, did he get a notice from the protest as well?
Yes.
He did? Right, cool.
It was probably the teenager running his social media, account, and
Yeah.
and then he gets a call later like, "Oh shit, you're suing him? Nobody told me."
Shit, this mute button on this app is ridiculous. I've almost exited the room 4 times now. It's
Get smaller sums. Get smaller.
yeah, it's, get better UI.
Okay, I'm just going to say for the new people in the room, if you guys want to join us on stage, this is like relaxed, chill, popcorn style. So just call in and I'll send you an invite to come on stage.
We had some questions in some random rooms today about the seating position and where they sleep. Do they sleep on and in the chairs when they have the sleep sessions, or do they rotate that, or
The chairs can fold
details?
fairly flat.
Yeah, and the bathroom or sort of the closet thingy is in front of where the commander was sitting, right? The pull-out thing there. Jessica, you're all read up on the bathroom situations. Would you like to take?
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, like we were joking about it. Yeah, you're actually going into a bag when you're going to the bathroom in front of 3 other people. So yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable.
Oh, yay.
Okay, so we have a bit of audio.
Followed by the second downhill phase burn roughly an hour later.
Now, each of these events involved short firings of Dragon's Draco thrusters to lower Dragon's altitude in advance of re-entering the Earth. Following these 2 burns, the crew finished out a day of medical research, calls with family, and then turned in for their last night of sleep on Dragon around 2:30 a.m. Pacific time. Now, just before 1 p.m. Pacific time today, the Inspiration4 crew donned their spacesuits and made their final cabin preparations before they begin the last series of operations prior to splashdown.
Yeah, we have a lot of events coming up today, so let's walk through the dynamic activities ahead of us this afternoon. Coming up in a few minutes at 3:09 p.m. Pacific time, we have claw separation. Dragon has to move into the proper attitude or angle in order to separate the trunk so that they don't deorbit together. The claw connects the trunk to the capsule. It also delivers power, telemetry, and fluids. So claw separation is the first step in separating that trunk. Trunk separation is next. That happens around 3:12 p.m. Pacific time. Once the trunk is separated, Dragon is running entirely on battery power. So if you're looking at the animation on the screen right now, the trunk is the bottom half of the section of the Dragon vehicle, the cylindrical portion. That will detach and leave just the capsule returning back to Earth. A few minutes after trunk separation at 3:17 p.m. Pacific time, we'll have the beginning of the deorbit burn. This is the last time that we'll use the forward bulkhead thrusters, and after that, we'll close the nose cone and lock it in preparation for reentry. That deorbit burn is expected to last for about 15 minutes, and that is what will line up Dragon for reentry into Earth's atmosphere. As the cabin continues to increase in temperature a little bit, there's nitrox that is used to cool the cabin and the suits to keep the crew nice and comfortable.
Deorbit sequence start in 5 minutes. You are now live.
Okay, so it does get toasty in there.
Hey, copy that, SpaceX. We show the same. So what we heard was
Yeah, I think they said at
the
1.3,000 degrees
crew
outside.
operations and resource engineer, also known as the core, communicating to the crew on Dragon. We'll hear those throughout the cast today as Dragon continues to prepare for deorbit and eventual splashdown on Earth. But so as we begin the deorbit burn and Dragon begins to make its way back to the Earth's atmosphere, we do pump nitrogen and oxygen through the cabin to make sure that the astronauts are nice and cool.
And then we will close the nose cone, and this will cover the forward hatch thrusters that we use in the deorbit burn. And it also protects the cupola during re-entry. And then during re-entry, we will have a known calm blackout period of time. This is an expected loss of communications with Dragon for about 7 minutes as Dragon passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. About 7 minutes later, we will regain that communication around 3:53 p.m. Pacific time, although the timing is not exact.
A few minutes after we get communications back, we're going to start to deploy our parachutes. First up, we have the drogue parachutes. And on screen now is test footage of the drogue chutes and the main chutes, testing the parachute system, make sure that everything is good. And these have gone through numerous amounts of tests to make sure that they are safe for flight. The drogue chutes are two smaller parachutes that are designed to stabilize the Dragon and slow it down before release of the main chutes, which you just saw on screen. Those are the four orange and white larger parachutes that will further slow down the spacecraft. Over the course of the 3-minute descent, the drogue and mains work together to bring vehicle velocity down from 350 miles per hour to just 15 miles an hour, at which point we have splashdown. That's expected to occur right at 4:06 p.m. Pacific time. After we splash down, we have about an hour before the recovery crew and recovery team goes through their checklist of procedures before we can get the crew out of the capsule.
So we do have a very exciting day ahead of us. Now, once it's time for our crew to deorbit and splash down back on Earth, they'll be heading to one of the targeted sites supported by SpaceX. Now, all of these sites are located off the coast of Florida, either in the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean. And spreading the supported sites across multiple locations helps to maximize the return opportunities for this mission and future crews, lowering the chance that we'll have to wave off due to bad weather. Now, since Dragon is capable of splashdown on either side of the Florida Panhandle, we have two identical and fully equipped recovery vessels ready to support, one in the Gulf of Mexico and the other in the Atlantic Ocean. And it looks like we also got a live view onboard Dragon with our Inspiration4 crew.
Yes, this is the over-the-shoulder view on the left-hand side. That is the mission commander, Jared Isaacman. And to his right is the mission pilot, Dr. Cyan Proctor. So what they're interacting with are some LCD screens on Dragon that gives them a ton of information about the vehicle, about the mission profile, and they'll be tracking the Dragon vehicle all the way down to splashdown today.
Yeah, and Dragon is flying autonomously, but they will be following along with each dynamic event that happens so that they are aware of every event that does happen, as they're going to feel a lot of the things that are happening.
Yeah, so we're expecting them to experience about 3 to 5 Gs on re-entry. And I believe, is he watching a movie? That is great. They're just relaxing, very nice and comfortable inside Dragon.
Yeah, it looks like they're entertaining themselves on their flight back home, essentially.
Yeah, so that tablet that's attached to Chris Zembroski's thigh also provides them with a ton of checklists throughout their duration of the mission. It also provides them with some entertainment as well, which Chris is enjoying.
What is he watching? What is that? Who's that?
I'd be remiss to mention that Haley, which
I don't know. I recognize it, but I don't recall the show.
Shot of, she was sitting on the far right-hand side next to the window of Dragon.
It's like
Haley Arsenault is the medical officer.
I think it's Spaceballs.
That will round out the Inspiration.
Yes, this is Spaceballs. Yes.
So in the lead up to today's SpaceX selected primary and alternate splashdown locations off the coast of Florida. The selection process works with a lot of
the orbit sequence start.
You broke up there, Keaton.
Cool. So we got the call from the core that the deorbit sequence is starting. Again, we're going to be starting off with the separation of the claw and then eventually the trunk. So again, you'll hear those beeps throughout the cast today. Those are Quindar tones, and effectively what those do is they help to clear the air to make sure that communication to and from the crew and ground are nice and clear. So Jesse and I will try to pause and make sure that you guys also are able to listen in to that as well. But I was mentioning the splashdown sites. So we have primary and alternate splashdown sites located off of the coast of Florida. The selection process works, and it takes into account a lot of different variables, and it looks at weather. It looks at wave height, wave period, visibility as well.
Yeah, and you can see on your screen, this is the primary landing site. And it looked like the waters were pretty calm, so that's pretty great. Today, our primary landing site will get the crew back home with a splashdown at about 4:06 p.m. Pacific time today. And for return, we'll be looking at a number of weather items. Some of the obvious ones that we do take into account is that there's no rain or chance of lightning in the recovery zone, both for the safety of the crew inside the capsule, but also the recovery teams on the water. We're also looking for wind speeds less than 15 feet per second or about 10 miles per hour, relatively calm seas so that we can safely execute recovery operations, which includes landing a helicopter on the recovery ship to fly Jared, Haley, Cyan, and Chris back to Florida.
Yeah, and if you've been following along since Wednesday, we had mentioned that for this particular mission, weather was of particular importance. The Inspiration4 crew did not go for an extended duration to the International Space Station. They were orbiting the Earth for the duration of their mission. So we had to make sure that weather was good on ascent, at liftoff, and also for splashdown today. But as Jesse mentioned, looks like we have some pretty good visibility. The waves are not choppy, and so things are looking great for an on-time splashdown later on today.
And for these operations, SpaceX closely coordinates with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safety zone to ensure public safety and for the safety of those involved in the recovery operations, as well as the crew on board the returning spacecraft. Multiple notices are issued to the mariners in advance and during recovery operations, and Coast Guard patrol boats are deployed to discourage boaters from entering the splashdown zones. Now, we want to stress to the public the need to respect this safety zone. Recovering a spacecraft from the water is a hazardous operation, and any other boats interfering increases risk to the astronauts in the capsule, the teams working to recover them from the water, and the safety of those that come too close. So for the safety of our crew and for your safety, we recommend that you sit back and watch as we'll be bringing you the best possible views of our astronauts' homecoming.
Dragon, nominal trunk jettison.
And copy that, SpaceX. We definitely felt it. So it looks like we had successful call separation. Again, that detaches the umbilical that routes power and fluids from the trunk to Dragon. So now Dragon has also separated its trunk successfully. And so that does a couple of things for us. When we re-enter and the parachutes deploy, we want to make sure that there is as little mass as possible. It gives the parachutes a bit easier time to decelerate the vehicle. The second thing it does is there are some
I think you're hot
some
micing
heat
there,
shields
Omar.
and some Pika tiles that we'll
Omar.
talk about a little bit later on. And their job is to protect the capsule and the crew from all of the heat that's being generated during reentry. Jettisoning the trunk exposes that heat tile and allows it to face forward during reentry.
Yeah, and again, now the Dragon capsule is on battery power. So the trunk typically provides power while they're in orbit. Now that we no longer have the trunk, it is working on battery power, and we'll have enough battery power and then some to make its way back home to Earth.
Okay, do you guys think it's Tesla batteries?
Fuel will nick.
Okay, are they 4680s?
No.
Probably.
About 15 minutes.
Okay, just a quick tip. When you unmute to speak, you got to give it like half a second or something and give it a second after, or else you're cutting off, like what happened with K10 right now. So we don't get to hear you. So I don't know if you want to say it again, K10.
I was just going to say maybe in the future. Sorry, I just didn't want to speak over the astronauts in the broadcast.
Oh, okay. Well, no worries. Like we're chill. Like nothing major is happening. They're still explaining again.
Burns, this helps bring them just a little bit closer to Earth. And then today, after we've now jettisoned the trunk, we will have a deorbit burn, which will set them on the trajectory back to the splashdown landing zone.
Yeah, so we are expecting that deorbit burn to begin in about 3 minutes. Again, it is going to last for about 15 minutes. And as Jesse mentioned, that is sort of the final burn before Dragon begins to reduce its altitude, get away from that orbital velocity of 17,500 miles an hour, and start to make its way to its splashdown zone off the coast of Florida.
It's really weird. Like they showed an animation. I don't know how exact it is, but like the chutes open like just south of Cuba. And they basically keep going on their trajectory all the way to the east coast of Florida.
They said the slowdown burn is 50 minutes. This is going to be fast, isn't it? It's not going to take long, this whole thing.
Oh no. Like the danger period is basically the blackout period, because that's when they're engulfed in plasma at 3,000 Kelvin or something.
$1 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And again, just such an incredible mission with the first all civilian crew on board, out in orbit, into space, but also inspiring the world with all the positions that they selected for the seats for who should be on this mission. The seat of leadership, the seat of prosperity, the seat of generosity, and the seat of hope. So just an overall incredible last few days. And now we're currently bringing the crew back home, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, and they've been quite busy, as all astronauts are. But I love that they were able to spend some time, and they gave us an on-orbit update. Yesterday, we saw Chris play the ukulele. We saw Haley do some somersaults in space. I think Dr. Cyan also showed us the drawings that she had done in space, too, which was phenomenal.
It's just so amazing, and she's been inspired by their own launch, so she showed us some drawings of that, and just really cool to see the crew up there. They had a number of events as well. They did a call with some St. Jude patients while they were out in space, live in space, answering some out of this world questions. They also even got I heard they got a phone call from Tom Cruise.
Yes, I saw that as well. I wonder what their conversation was like. But I think it's quite interesting because we all know Tom Cruise from Top Gun, call sign Maverick. The crew themselves also got call signs because they were a part of a lot of fighter jet training and exercises. So I love that they were able to connect.
Yeah, that must be so exciting for them. Also, they've been doing some auctions. You know, we've had some auctions since the mission began, and they did some of that promotion as well. I can't wait to get one of the zero-G indicators.
Yes. I think those sold out very, very quickly. Yeah. The space dog, you might have seen it. We might be able to get shots of it if we ever get shots inside the cabin again. But yeah, super cute, and also, again, represents a great cause. I do want to do a quick plug that if you are watching on YouTube, there is a donate now button on the right-hand side of your screen. We've fundraised a ton of money so far. I think since Wednesday, we've raised an additional $20 million. So we're at about $153 million raised out of the total goal of $200 million. So thank you to everyone that has already donated. And if you can donate in any way, shape, or form, please do. Super appreciate it. And again, it's all for a great cause.
Yeah, such an incredible mission again. They also got the chance, yesterday was Friday, they did get to ring the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange, which is pretty awesome. You can see them there. You can see how excited they are too.
Yeah, I think every time we've seen the crew, they've had smiles in their face, even during ascent. Right? We saw Dr. Cyan just exuding excitement. And so this crew really is something else. And I'm so glad that they got to experience the things that they experienced, and all the outreach that they've done so far is quite amazing.
Yeah, and for the first all-civilian crew, these are some pretty incredible people. If you've been following along, or if you haven't seen it yet, Netflix and Time have a documentary on the crew and on the mission. Lets you get to know the crew a lot more and get to see what training they're going through. And this is an awesome live view from our selfie camera on the Dragon, looking at the Dragon cupola. And the sun looks amazing. Earth looks amazing.
Look at the clouds. That's amazing. And for the Inspiration4 crew to peek their head in there and get a first-person perspective through the brand new cupola, oh gosh, that is fantastic. And I think Chris has been very, very busy taking photos of the Earth through the cupola, and just trying to make as much of his time in space as possible and give back to the community. Oh, there he is.
And there he is with his camera. We've heard he's been taking tons and tons of photos up there. I can't wait to see what photos they have. There he is. Inside of the cupola.
Yes,
awesome.
As busy as ever. And Chris himself, when he was younger, he used to stargaze on the rooftop of his high school. And so now he gets to Earth gaze from space.
I think deorbit burn.
So we are getting confirmation that the deorbit burn has already begun. We're well into it. Again, it's going to last for about 15 minutes and end approximately at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, and again, in the last 10 minutes or so, we've had a number of events during this deorbit sequence. We had claw separation. The claw is basically what attaches the Dragon trunk to the capsule and has umbilicals between the two. We've jettisoned the Dragon trunk, exposing the heat shields on the bottom of the capsule. And now we are currently in progress of the deorbit burn, which is going to basically deorbit the vehicle and get it on a trajectory on its way back home to Earth.
Yeah, the deorbit burn uses the Draco engines on Dragon. There's 16 of them on the forward sort of underneath the nose cone. There are 4 there, and after we're done with this deorbit burn, we're not going to need those 4 anymore, so we'll close the hatch. Dragon also has another subset of engines known as the Super Dracos. We're not using them as part of the splashdown. They're super strong, and they're really only reserved for the launch escape system during ascent or in case there was an emergency, but we're just relying on the Draco engines right now.
What you're looking at on your screen is a live view inside of Dragon. And on your left-hand side is the commander of this mission, Jared Isaacman. On the right-hand side was Dr. Cyan Proctor, the pilot for the mission. And again, awesome view from the outside looking at the cupola on the Dragon and the 4 Draco thrusters. This is actually the location of where those 4 Draco thrusters are. And as Andy mentioned, once we do complete this deorbit burn, it's only going to last about 15 minutes. Once we complete that, we will begin to close the nose cone, which will basically cover this top portion that you're seeing on the screen.
It's weird. We're not seeing the Dracos fire actually from that view. I think that's weird.
So they can still use the touch screen and interface with the monitors through the spacesuits. And right now we have the visors up, but the suits themselves, the way they're created, it's a one-piece suit, and the helmets are actually 3D printed and customized for each of the crew members.
Yeah, and right now, Jared, Cyan, Haley, and Chris are currently using their screens on their tabs, and they're basically following along every one of these events. They are out in space and inside of this vehicle, so when the thrusters do turn on, they do feel that, and they do hear some of that from inside of the capsule. It doesn't exactly sound like what you would hear an engine sound like down here on Earth, but they do hear some of the clicking of the valves when the engines do start.
Yeah, so the Inspiration4 crew has been on orbit for about 3 days. We're expecting them to splash down in about 40 minutes, actually. And so, especially after we finish the deorbit burn, things are really going to start to move. We'll close the nose cone, and then we're going to start, the Dragon capsule is going to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. We're going to go through that period of communications blackout for a couple of minutes. And then parachutes will deploy, and we're going to see them back here on Earth in just under 40 minutes.
Yeah, and this is a significant thing to mention. There will be a blackout period for approximately 7 minutes. And that happens when the vehicle does enter back into the Earth's atmosphere. Outside of the Dragon capsule will heat up to almost 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And what that will do is cause a layer of plasma around the vehicle, which will prevent some comms from coming through. But once they are through that period, we should be able to regain those comms. The core here in Mission Control Hawthorne will do some comm checks to make sure that they have reestablished those comms between Dragon.
So if you are just joining us, we are part of the Inspiration4 mission for splashdown. The team is targeted to splash down off the coast of Florida at approximately 4:06 p.m. Pacific time. Right now, we are in the middle of our deorbit burn. So this is the final burn before the Dragon spacecraft really is on its final trajectory towards that targeted landing site.
Everything looks green on the
Just
screen.
about 10 minutes into the burn, meaning there's about 5 minutes left of that deorbit burn. And right now you are looking at a live view inside of the Dragon capsule of the crew watching and checking things on their display panels there. Again, they are following along with all of the events so that they are aware of every expected event that is supposed to happen. And again, a awesome live view from the outside of our Dragon capsule on the forward. There's about 5 minutes left of that deorbit burn, and right now you are looking at a live view inside of the Dragon capsule of the crew watching and checking things on their display panels there. Again, they are following along with all of the events so that they are aware of every expected event that is supposed to happen. And again, a awesome live view from the outside of our Dragon capsule on the forward end, looking at our amazing.
20 kilometers. Dragon is committed.
They're committed. They're coming home.
We just heard some comms that Dragon is committed. What that means is that they are committed to return back to Earth.
Yes, they are. They are coming back, which is super exciting.
Yeah, they're just on the southeastern tip of Australia right now, it seems like from the display.
So I should mention at this point, Dragon itself is an extremely intelligent vehicle. It is largely autonomous and effectively flying itself. So it knows where it's at, its position in space. It knows where it's headed. It has the ability to adjust its attitude or angle and trajectory as needed to make sure it is headed where it needs to head. And so even through the communications blackout period, again, due to the temporary buildup of plasma that interferes with communications, even through that period, the crew really just has to sit back and enjoy the flight because Dragon is smart enough to know where exactly it's going to be.
Yeah, so much so that we saw them watching some movies just a few minutes ago. You are hearing on the comms just some status updates of that deorbit burn. Again, this deorbit burn lasts about 15 minutes long, and we're getting close to completion here. And actually, something to note, if there are people watching live for Splashdown, they might actually get to hear the sonic boom as quickly as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere and is coming down. You know, they will be traveling faster than the speed of sound, so you'll get a sonic boom when they come back through.
Yeah, I think that the folks that are nearby or live close enough to the coast, they might even be able to see Dragon. It is a daytime splashdown, which is super exciting. So yeah, in in about 35 minutes. We're expecting Dragon capsule resilience flying for the second time and returning for the second time, and the Inspiration4 crew members to return back to Earth and splash down into the coast, off the coast of Florida.
I think
again, we just heard a call out that we're probably about 3 minutes away from that deorbit burn completing. But yeah, Andy, it's been so exciting. Just this mission overall has been so incredible. Again, the first all-civilian crew to go to orbit, and they're raising money for St. Jude. It's just been an incredible mission so far. They've been out in space. Talking to St. Jude's patients, raising money, doing some science experiments for us so that we can see, what does microgravity do to, the regular person like you and me.
13 minutes.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that I don't think we've talked about yet, is all the science that they've done. We saw earlier in the week some experiments with some portable ultrasound devices. There was an experiment to study how fluid shifts and sort of the relevance of up and down in space that could potentially help contribute to motion sickness, both in space and back here on Earth. But the really cool thing, in my opinion, is all the data that they're going to gather, that's going to be put in a repository, and everyone has access to it, essentially. And so you typically don't get that with normal missions, but for Inspiration4, I think one of the hallmarks is they wanted to make sure that they were trying to further science as much as possible and further human space exploration.
Yeah, having the access to that data available to literally the entire world only allows you to have, as many people to utilize that research and be able to do something with it. We're just that call out was just a minute remaining in this deorbit burn.
So Gwen Shotwell, I think, is in the control room.
So after the deorbit burn, again, we won't need the Draco thrusters in the forward bulkhead anymore, and so we will be initiating the close of the nose cone. Oh, here's a great animation. The nose cone is the very, very top. You're going to see it latch open. That's where the Draco thrusters are at, but after they're done firing, we're actually going to be closing it. And so if you're here since the beginning of this particular cast, the bottom section of the capsule, that's the trunk section, the bottom half of that has already been jettisoned, and right now the top portion, the capsule, that's where the crew is in, and that is what is returning to Earth and making it splash down off the coast of Florida here in a few minutes.
There we go. The orbit burn is done.
Nominal burn. Good targeting. Dragon, deorbit burn complete. Performance nominal. Nose cone closure is initiated.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same. I believe that was Chris confirming that he had a nominal burn. Everything seems to be going great. And now, again, we've initiated the close sequence of the nose cone. So in the background, Dragon is currently inhibiting those forward bulkhead Draco thrusters that we had just used to complete the deorbit burn, ensuring that it's safe to latch the nose cone shut for re-entry. The vehicle also initiated the nitrox suit purge, and this will help keep the crew cool and comfortable during re-entry, which is coming up in about 20 minutes. At this point, the nose cone is closing and protecting the forward hatch for re-entry. The crew is using the screens that we saw earlier to monitor the locking of nose cone, which is done actually by a set of hooks.
Yeah, and again, the nose cone doesn't just snap shut. It does take a few minutes, I think about 4 minutes or so to close. It is a very technically and structurally sound seal that needs to happen there. So it needs to be very precise, which is why it's a very slow mechanism to make sure that it's closed.
Yes, and we mentioned earlier, as Dragon's re-entering, it's going to form plasma, and plasma is effectively superheated gas.
Complete.
So that call out was for the slew being complete. So the slew is effectively maneuvering. And so we want to position Dragon and orient it a certain way before it starts to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So that looks like it's going well. But I mentioned a little bit about the temperature buildup around the heat shield and Dragon. So we initiate a nitrox purge in both the cabin and the suits to keep the environment inside Dragon nice and cool. The suits themselves will automatically detect if temperatures go above 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it does, we'll just purge them with effectively air. It's the same sort of air that you would see in a scuba tank. And that keeps the astronauts nice and comfortable for their journey back to Earth.
It's basically their own personal AC system. And as we mentioned, we are coming up on the blackout period, which is about 10 minutes or so from now, or 10 minutes after nose cone closure. And during that event, the capsule, the exterior of the capsule will get to approximately 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So as Andy mentioned, it's extremely important to keep the cabin cool, to keep the astronauts cool during this event. But Dragon was designed for this, so they shouldn't have any problems with 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, we've got some really cool material on the bottom. It's actually called Pika 3.0, and its job is basically to deflect and take on all of that heat and make sure that we keep the capsule and crew nice and cool, again, for their re-entry. If you're looking on screen right now, there is a capsule, a Dragon capsule in the background. You can see at the very bottom the tiling of that Pika material. That is a returned capsule. So it's been through the Earth's atmosphere. It's taken on that 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit heat, and that's what we expect the capsule today to also look like upon re-entry.
Yeah, and this is a flown Dragon capsule. So while the spacecraft is in orbit, it's flying at about 17,500 miles per hour. But as it comes back through the atmosphere, we actually don't, there's no brakes on Dragon aside from the heat shield. And so that heat shield actually, with the atmosphere, helps to slow the vehicle down to about 350 miles per hour before the drogues even deploy.
Yeah, it's quite incredible to think about that. Orbital velocity, again, 17,500 miles an hour, being slowed down to just 350 miles an hour with just atmospheric drag alone is incredible. And then from there, we deploy the chutes. And so most of the job, thank you to Earth's atmosphere for slowing down Dragon. Most of it is done by the friction up there. So we are waiting on the next event, which is we're going to be waiting on confirmation that the nose cone has been closed. And then we're going to be entering that blackout portion, the communications blackout period, a few minutes later. It is expected to last for about 7 minutes. And what I would expect to hear is we heard those Quindar tones, those beeps from crew to core and core to crew. Expect those to start to pop up again as we're coming out of that blackout period. We want to make sure that we reestablish communication with the crew.
Yeah, and actually, before we go into the blackout period, we should hear some comms as well. Again, the core here in Hawthorne, Mission Control Hawthorne, communicates with the team, makes sure that they know which event is coming up next so that they know what to expect. And so we should be hearing some of that confirmation that they will be going into the blackout period, as well as some confirmation and some comms when they exit that period.
Lots of people standing around at SpaceX, not working, actually watching what's happening. It's so funny.
Yeah, I've noticed there's more and more.
Yeah.
What's that one dude to the left wearing on his head?
The one
number 2 to the back, all the way to the left. What is that? It's like a beanie with a thing
Again,
on
we
the
are
top.
currently just waiting for confirmation of nose cone closure. Once we confirm that, the next event after that will be the blackout period that we have mentioned. Again, that will last about 7 minutes.
Looks like
That's
like
his
an
tinfoil hat.
exactly. I was gonna say.
What you're seeing on your screen right now is Mission Control Hawthorne here at SpaceX headquarters. Looks like you could see Gwen Shotwell
Oh yeah, there
sitting
she
in the
is.
front row there, watching as our first all-civilian crew, the Inspiration4 crew, returns back home to Earth.
It's actually Elon in disguise.
Yeah, and the recovery team and the launch team did a great job looking at weather, looking ahead, because Florida weather in the fall it can be tricky, but we got excellent weather during liftoff on Wednesday, and pretty darn good weather right now for splashdown as well.
Yeah, when we did get some live views of the seas there, it did look pretty calm, which is exactly what we want. We want to make sure that during recovery, we have some steady seas, not just for the crew.
Dragon, nose cone is secure for entry.
Sounds like we got that confirmation of nose cone closure.
They're all buttoned up.
So as we begin the second half of entry, Dragon is now beginning to flush nitrox into the cabin and continuing to top off the Inspiration4 crew's suits with cool air. Again, this is what will allow the cabin temperature to remain comfortable, while external temperatures can reach upwards of 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, the heat shield is pointing forward. That's the leading structure that is going to be heading into reentry, and that's going to be what leads the capsule to the landing site.
And again, the exterior of the capsule will get to approximately 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. But again, Dragon was designed for this dynamic event, so there will be some cool air inside of the cabin. It's environmentally controlled, as well as through their suits. They do have their personal air conditioning inside of their suits, where they will get a flow of nitrox. And as Andy mentioned earlier, there are sensors in the suits, so they don't even have to think about if they're getting too hot or not. The suits will just automatically keep the environment controlled inside of their suits for them.
Okay, this
Those
is a
suits are
great view of
pretty
the suit. First off,
Yep.
looking super slick and super cool, but it is essentially a mini spacecraft. There's an umbilical from the leg portion that will hook up to Dragon, and that will route communications and electronics, as well as, again, routing the air needed to keep the suit pressurized in case of a depressurization event, or if they need to be purged with cool air, it can do that as well.
Yeah, and some of the cool manufacturing features, the helmet is 3D printed. The material of the exterior of the suit is heat resistant, as well as the gloves are designed, they're conductive, so that they're designed to be able to use them on the touchscreen.
Yeah, and again, they're all custom made for each of the astronauts. The chairs themselves are also custom fitted. There are a couple of different sizes, and the armrests can be adjusted for the astronauts' preference. And so, we want to make sure, again, the crew is as comfortable and as safe as possible for landing. The seats will actually recline up to its landing position, and then there is a 5-point belt that will keep the astronauts in place to make sure that everything is nice and comfortable for the team.
And we have a Dragon tracker, and that's what you're seeing on your screen. You can see that Dragon is currently to the west of South America there. And on their way, you can kind of see their trajectory heading towards the coast of Florida for their splashdown today.
So we are expecting to enter that blackout period in about 2 minutes here. We should hear the core communicate to the team here in a couple of minutes that we are again entering that blackout period, and then we'll reestablish communication once we're through with that.
Dragon, SpaceX for entry brief.
Go SpaceX.
Jared, you're looking good. No deltas to timeline. Vehicle's nominal. Tracking no issues. The deorbit burn was right down the middle with nominal landing site targeting. No deltas on weather or recovery, and we're looking forward to having you home shortly.
And copy that, SpaceX. Good deorbit burns. Vehicle's healthy. Recovery forces are there. Weather's looking good. See you guys soon.
Good to be back.
Godspeed, resilience. Godspeed. Bring the crew home safely.
So we heard some awesome calls from the core. The deorbit burn looked good. Re-entry and weather all looked good. So everything you would want to hear for splashdown, we got it. And so things are looking great for splashdown in about 20 minutes here. So super exciting, and things will start to get very, very dynamic, and a lot of events will happen over the next 20 minutes or so. So at this point, we are entering here shortly a communications blackout period, which lasts approximately 7 minutes due to plasma formation around the spacecraft. During this time, no vehicle telemetry is received by mission control or the recovery team, and no external commanding of the vehicle or voice communication is possible. As a reminder, though, Dragon is designed to fly itself and continues to autonomously. So Dragon is designed to fly itself and continues to autonomously use its Draco thrusters to orient itself during re-entry. So during re-entry, the vehicle will be slowing down from orbital velocity, which is approximately 17,500 miles an hour, all the way down to about 350 to 400 miles an hour before we deploy those chutes.
We did hear a call out of 200 kilometers. That is basically telling us that the Dragon capsule is getting closer and closer to Earth. Again, they went all the way out to orbit at about 575 kilometers from Earth. I think the furthest they went was 590 kilometers. But now they're on their way back home, so they're approximately 200 kilometers at this moment. And again, today we are bringing the crew back home. We've begun several operations during this deorbit sequence, but actually deorbit and return home began yesterday. We did have a couple phase burns yesterday that brought the vehicle down to approximately 365 kilometers. And now we're getting closer and closer to bringing the crew back home. It's getting really exciting over here. Can't wait to see them back on Earth after their trip to orbit.
Yeah, so Jesse mentioned yesterday we started some downhill phasing burns. There were 2 of them to lower the altitude. Earlier today, we didn't see, but we got confirmation of the trunk jettison. We completed our deorbit burn successfully, and right now Dragon is going through its re-entry phase and through its blackout communications portion. And shortly here, we're going to have splashdown after our parachutes deploy. You know, I can't believe this mission has come and gone so quickly. The crew has been, again, super busy, and I do want to remind all of our viewers that this Inspiration4 mission, this Inspiration4 crew, it's all for a great cause. We want to make sure that we further human space exploration. We want to do a ton of science, and we want to fundraise for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The goal is $200 million. Jared Isaacman donated $100 million himself, and we're a little over halfway through the other $100 million that we want to fundraise. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you have a computer nearby, you can go to inspiration4.com/donate and support the cause there. There's also a bunch of different things like auctions.
Dragon, SpaceX, please verify crew entry preparations complete with tablets, restraints, visors, and feet.
Hey, copy that, SpaceX. We're just waiting a little bit longer, but we'll do it right now. SpaceX Dragon and tablets are secure. Restraints are tight and visors are down. We are ready to come home.
We copy all, Dragon. Approximately 4 minutes, 30 seconds until telecom blackout. We'll see you on the other side at 2300.
Talk to you at 2300.
I think there's a guy that was just hauling a Raptor next to the
Just
mission
under
control.
5 minutes away from that blackout period. So what you're seeing on your screen is the core, the crew operations and resources engineer communicating with the crew on board Dragon, preparing for re-entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. So they're closing their visors and making sure that their 5-point harnesses are secure, basically doing all their preparations for that re-entry. And again, if you're just now joining us, you are tuned into the Inspiration4 mission. This is the first all-civilian crew out to orbit. And now they've been out there for about 3 days and now making their way back. And the crew on board is Jared Isaacman, who's the commander for the mission. He is the 38-year-old CEO of Ship4 Payments. He has been a fighter pilot for many, many years. He's flown in over 100 air shows and always does a fundraiser or a charity event with every one of his air shows. And he's doing the same thing with this mission, which is pretty incredible.
Yep. Up next, we have Haley Arsenault. She's 29 years old, and she's actually the youngest American to fly in space ever. She's also the first...
From Steelers bias attitude.
Continuing to get great calls. Haley is also the first in space with a prosthetic. She is a pediatric cancer survivor and also a physician assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, same place that saved her life when she was 10 years old.
Got Dr. Cyan Proctor on board, making her way back home with the crew. She is the 51-year-old mission pilot for this mission. She's from Tempe, Arizona, and she holds the seat of prosperity. She actually was awarded this seat for... we got a 2-minute call out for that expected blackout period. But Dr. Cyan Proctor actually was awarded the seat for starting her own, basically, business for her artwork and her poetry. But she's also an incredible human being. She's an analog astronaut. She's always wanted to go to space. Almost became a NASA astronaut at one point.
Initial entry attitude complete.
And now she's on the crew and was able to accomplish her dream.
And last but certainly not least is Chris Dombrowski. He's 42. He's a data engineer at Lockheed Martin and a United States Air Force veteran, a space enthusiast through and through. And, I was watching his docuseries, and he's just a husband and father first and foremost. And so those were our 4 crew members that are currently making their way back home, back down to Earth, and as part of the Inspiration4 mission.
I'm so excited to see them come back home, and I can't wait to hear their stories from being out in space. Again, just first all-civilian crew. They're not professional astronauts. I can't wait to hear their stories coming back from that.
Yeah, it looks like they've had a really fun time. I was watching the interview with the St. Jude children yesterday, and they were throwing M&Ms all over the capsule.
Acceleration.
And with the microgravity, just darting them down and trying to chase them down. So they're obviously very, very good friends, and work very, very well together.
And we are entering this blackout period.
This is it.
We are entering this blackout period that we have mentioned. Again, it is an expected period of time where the vehicle is re-entering back into the Earth's atmosphere. That generates a lot of heat, about up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, which causes a plasma layer to form around the vehicle. So we do lose comms with the crew. They've already done their pre-blackout period operations, making sure that their visors are closed, they're strapped in, and they're ready to re-enter back into the Earth's atmosphere. And so we do expect to regain comms about 7 minutes after they've entered the blackout period.
That Raptor you saw was missing.
So the view on your left is Mission Control in Hawthorne, SpaceX's headquarters. You can see that we've got
Maybe it was
some
V2,
folks
the
gathering.
simplified version.
They're also very excited for Inspiration4 to return back to Earth. And so, yeah, we're all waiting. We're actually about 20, 25 minutes away from splashdown off the coast of Florida. Again, Dragon, even throughout this blackout period, it can pilot itself essentially. So, again, the crew just needs to make sure that they're strapped in and enjoy the flight, because Dragon will take them to where they need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And as we mentioned earlier, they don't really have to do anything aside from follow along with each event that is happening. So we did catch them earlier watching some movies on their flight back home. But yeah, they really don't need to do much, as Dragon is autonomous.
Yes. So after we splash down, for those that are maybe watching for the first time or wondering, how does Dragon get out of the water? So Dragon itself is designed to be waterproof.
80-kilometer altitude. Loss of comm. Startup blackout period.
There we go.
So we just heard
anticipated acquisition of signal in 4 minutes and 35 seconds.
So we just heard the call out that Dragon is about 80 kilometers in altitude. We're entering that communications blackout period now, and we just got an update that it's expected to last about 4.5 minutes. So again, we'll reestablish communications with the crew after this blackout period, but we are entering the atmosphere at a very, very, very high velocity, and when we start to get a lot of friction from the atmosphere and the space capsule, we start to form that plasma, and plasma tends to interfere with communication. So it's a temporary communications blackout, and again, we're going to be able to reconnect with them in about 4 minutes here.
And during this time, no vehicle telemetry is received by Mission Control or the recovery team. There's no external commanding of the vehicle or voice communication. That is not possible at this time. So as a reminder, Dragon is designed to fly itself and continues to fly autonomously using Draco thrusters to orient itself during this re-entry.
It's coming in as first.
During this re-entry, the vehicle will be slowing down the orbital velocity from 17,500 miles per hour, and the use of just the atmosphere will bring the vehicle down to about 350 miles per hour before we even deploy the drogue chutes.
Yeah, a few minutes after we get communications again, we are expecting to deploy the sets of parachutes. We have 2 sets. The first, again, are drogue chutes. There's 2 of them. Their job is to slow the vehicle down from about 350 miles an hour to about 120 miles an hour. And those deploy at around 18,000 feet. Shortly after that, we'll deploy our main parachutes. There's 4 of them. Those are larger, circular orange and white chutes, and their job is to slow the vehicle down from 120 miles an hour to about 15 miles an hour, and then we'll make splashdown off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, those chutes are pretty amazing.
So yeah, Dragon is, again, flying itself. Even the chutes that I had just mentioned about, there's sensors on Dragon that detect altitude and pressure, and they will determine when to fire those parachutes. And so pretty much everything on Dragon is autonomous, and again, it's steering itself. It's taking the Inspiration4 crew where they need to go for their targeted splashdown.
And if you're just now joining us, we're currently in progress of the blackout period. What this is basically the Dragon spacecraft re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. It'll see temperatures, external temperatures of about 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, building a plasma layer around the vehicle, preventing comms and communication with the Dragon spacecraft. It's expected to last about 4.5 minutes. We're a little over halfway through that right now. So we should, in a couple minutes here, start hearing some comms from the core, checking in to regain that communication with Dragon.
Come on. There we go. We get some FLIR vision.
What we're seeing is a view from our thermal camera, seeing Dragon coming back down to Earth right there.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is the first shot of the Dragon capsule coming back as part of the Inspiration4 mission. The crowd here is super excited seeing that for the first time as well.
It's in one piece.
A couple minutes left of the blackout period, and we should be getting comms reestablished with the crew here shortly.
I think we saw a jet fly by, underneath it.
Looked like it.
Yeah, that wasn't a bird.
No, it was definitely had something hot coming out the.
What you're seeing on your screen right now is on the left-hand side. That is Mission Control Hawthorne.
Dragon, GPS converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Here we go.
Captain at SpaceX, we show the same.
Oh, fine.
And those comms confirm that we have regained comms with Dragon. And they're getting ready for drogue deploy here shortly.
Yeah, I love these tracking shots. Again, that is Dragon in the center of your screen. We've got visuals of it, and we're expecting drogue chutes to deploy, and then the main chutes shortly after that here in a couple of minutes.
And that's the low-res downlink. They have better images than what we're seeing.
Again, a lot of excitement for Inspiration4 crew's return. Waiting on drogue chute deploy. That happens at about 18,000 feet.
Dragon, brace for drogue window.
Captain at SpaceX, we're bracing.
On re-entry, the team's experiencing about 3 to 5 Gs.
We heard some words to have them brace for drogue deploy. They will feel the difference in speed when the chutes do deploy. That was what the core mentioned there.
Okay, now we have regular view.
That's such a cool shot of Dragon coming back down to Earth. It looks very fast in this camera view here.
Come on, shoots.
Two good ones.
Yeah, so this is a great shot of Dragon looking up at the drogue chutes. A lot of communication going back and forth between the crew and ground station, but the drogue's job is to slow the vehicle down from about 350 miles an hour to 120. We are expecting the main chutes for these to cut off and the main chutes to come shortly after this.
There you go.
That is a really
Yeah, totally. And they're gonna open like so slowly. And there you go. They're fully deployed.
And at 4:04 p.m. Pacific time, we do have confirmation that the main chutes have deployed, and you can see that on your left-hand screen of a camera looking forward above the Dragon capsule, looking at those 4 main chutes.
1,000.
Copy, 1,000.
The next event coming up now is a visual confirmation of splashdown. You can see the Dragon capsule on your right-hand screen slowly coming down now. We talked about how fast the vehicle has been traveling, but they will be touching down approximately 15 miles per hour when they touch the Atlantic Ocean there.
800, SpaceX.
Copy, 800.
Now, the Dragon 1 program had great success with the water landing, with 20 successful splashdowns over the course of that program, 9 of which were carried out by flight-proven Dragon spacecraft.
And this is a great shot. Dragon continuing to descend back towards Earth, again, targeting a landing, a splashdown off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean.
Copy, 600.
Getting real close.
Copy, 400.
looks a little.
Always.
200, we're bracing.
Copy, 200.
That'll buff out. Okay, this is it. Splashdown imminent.
Yeah, the home!
And the boats are on their way.
Inspiration4, on behalf of
Hope Chris.
SpaceX, welcome home to planet Earth. Your mission has shown the world that space is for all of us and that everyday people can make extraordinary impacts in the world around them. Thank you for sharing your leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. And congratulations on your incredible journey.
The alarm system of Dragon went off.
Just getting started.
Copy, just getting started.
Sorry about that, folks. One of my stupid neighbors' alarm.
So welcome back, Inspiration4. The Dragon Resilience capsule has returned. The crew has returned. What a phenomenal visual that we got. And I love that Jared said, we're just getting started.
Right. This is the beginning of their journey, of the next steps to the new era in human space flight. And just, what an incredible mission. What an amazing view watching them touch down and splash down into the Atlantic Ocean. You could hear the crowd here so excited to welcome the crew back home.
Yes. So we do have a couple of events that need to happen first before we can start to get the crew out of the capsule. So you can see some boats headed towards Dragon. The first job is to make sure that the area around Dragon is safe to approach, and then we'll go in there, start rigging the Dragon up to be able to hoist later on onto our main recovery vessel. So we also heard that Jared had given us a confirmation of stable 1. What that means is Dragon has splashdown and is upright. There's also stable 2. Dragon can actually be upside down or sideways. It is waterproof and has systems where it can pump seawater into some bladders to help keep it upright. So again, stable 1 is the best possible scenario that we can achieve, and that's what we see on screen right now.
And just something to note, there are going to be a few operations that happen before the crew can get out of the capsule. So they will be strapped into their seats, remain strapped into their seats throughout these operations until basically until hatch open once we have the Dragon capsule on board the recovery vessel. So we do have some events coming up next. The fast boats will be approaching the Dragon capsule. They'll be doing some inspections to make sure that it is safe before we begin operations to lift Dragon out of the water onto the recovery vessel.
Dragon, SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in 1 minute.
There we go.
You copy that, SpaceX. We're looking forward to seeing you.
And Dragon, with that, we request to come aboard via display cam.
And you say again, SpaceX?
Requesting permission to come aboard via display cam.
Permission granted. Come aboard, SpaceX.
Like, what does he think? Like they're naked suddenly or something? They just asked permission if they could turn on the display inside the capsule. And I'm thinking, yeah, what do you think they're doing? So I don't know. You guys want to open after party room so we can like chat and close this one up?
Ordinance and
Sure.
Sure. Who wants to open it? Because if I close this one, everybody leaves. So Sawyer, Omar, I know Adam and Jessica are, it's past their bedtime, basically.
It's up. They're up late.
Yeah, I can open it.
All right. So Sawyer, go open in the after party, and we'll go chill over there, waiting for the rest of the mission. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here. There'll be another room opening in the X after party show. This was amazing. I feel relieved. I think we all do. And we'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.